And with the metaphor we use is imagine climbing a mount. David was a big climber as a young man. He used to climb Mount Washington, and there was a tough climb to what they called the upper meadow, and then there was an even tougher climb to the summit. So the first part one, is just how to get to the upper meadow. How do you get to a place where your relationships are robust and functional and they feel solid and good? And when most people don't even know how to get to the upper meadow. And then
Right.
part two is, so there might be a few that you actually want to make the even steeper, even trickier climb all the way to exceptional. And here's what that's going to take. And we define exceptional as a relationship where you can both be vulnerable and fully yourselves, just for starters, where you can be honest with each other and nobody will use whatever you said against you, where you can both be and remain committed to each other's growth and learning and development. Uh, and and the idea is that you can have some of that with some people, where it's a relationship where you deal with conflict productively, as I just said. So you can have some pieces of this, but when you have all of those with a person, then you're on to something that we call exceptional. And it takes a lot of work. And we're not saying every relationship in your life should be exceptional.
So there's some basic skill sets to get to the upper meadow, to get to like a
Exactly.
kind of baseline good relationships, and
Exactly.
then there you have a guide to getting to building exceptional relationships.
That's correct. If you think about your own T group experience, I bet you could identify some of the stuff that takes to get to the upper meadow and what it might take to get all the way to the summit. You in your I mean, you probably never
Right.
thought about that, but you're already equipped with a fair amount of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm thinking about it right now, and I think getting to the upper meadow, it's probably showing vulnerability and talking about your emotional state as opposed to just the facts and circumstances of what's going on, right? It's like being going deeper in the
Exactly.
conversation, um, and probably there's some component of just spending time with the person too. Um, but then for the
Or
pardon me,
I think there could be a little fallacy in the spending time, because it's what you do with the time you're spending,
yeah,
right? How much are you really letting each other in? How real are you being with each other? If you and I are very real with each other for half an hour, that will advance our relationship much farther than if we spend 3 days together on a camping trip and never talk about what's really going on for us.
yeah, that's true. There's this element of this, from the T group, my T group experience, where some of those people I'm, you know, very good friends. I joined the board of one of their companies. I'm like pretty good friends with. Like and we only spent an hour or sorry, one weekend together. And so
Exactly.
there it was an example of forging some incredible relationships off of like a very relatively small amount of time. Um,
Right.
so what are the hallmarks of building an exceptional relationship, or what are the ways that people build an exceptional relationship?
Well, when you go back to, you need a combination of all these things in order for it to be exceptional, of all the things that I just talked about. So you need to deal with conflict productively. And by the way, that means you have to take the risk of sometimes saying things without knowing what's actually going to happen. Like if I tell you that something that you've been doing is really bugging me, uh, and initially that's going to create friction for us, and you might feel crappy. I have to be willing and invested enough in our relationship and committed enough to your growth and our relationship to tell you, and to say, and to be very clear that I'm telling you because I think you doing X or Y is harming us. Now, there's a version of that that you need to get to the meadow, but there's an even more an even more courage needed to get to the summit. Precisely because once you get to the meadow, sometimes you think, it's pretty nice here. The sun is warm, there's nice flowers in the meadow, it's pretty here. I don't know, that summit's looking, you know, the 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 hike to the summit is very uncertain. It starts out looking all clear, and then clouds come over the summit. And then you have to stop, and you don't know if you're going to make it to the top. And you think, why did we ever leave the meadow? But the fact is that um, it isn't necessarily a whole new set of competencies and skills, but it is using them in even more profound ways to build connection.